I'd like to call this February 16th session of the Hoyoke City Council to order. The clerk will call the roll and record those members present.
Bartley.
Here.
Bresnahan. Shatnoff.
Here.
Graney.
Here.
Jordan.
Here.
Leahy.
Present.
LeBron Martinez.
Here.
Lisi. McGee. McGivern.
Here.
Roman.
Here.
Sullivan.
Here.
Tallman.
Here.
Bacon.
Here.
Valentine.
Here.
All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
God bless America.
And the city of Hoyoke.
And the city
And the city council.
You're voting first tonight. Thank you.
First time my name gets called.
We have two items marked 1 and 2 on our agenda that are currently laid on the table. Unless there's a motion to remove from the table, they'll be still there on the table. Okay, moving forward. We now have public comment. We have 3 citizens that signed up for public comment this evening. First up is Paul Bassett of 966 Main Street. Paul, welcome. Just make sure the microphone's on, Paul.
Hello?
Hi.
Yeah, I mean, I think most of the council knows me, but to the residents of Hoyoke, I live at 966 Main Street, and my problem is with the 24-hour business down there, the car wash. There's a lot of illegal activity going on, drag racing going on, loud noise. It wakes my kids up at night 7 days a week. You know, not so bad now with the weather, but once summer comes, it's crazy down there. And I'd like the council to address it any way they possibly can.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you very
Thanks.
much, Paul. Councilor Lisi?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I think I did file an order to investigate that issue with both the Board of Health, the License Board, and the Police Department.
Yes, Councilor Roman?
Yes, and to answer Councilor Lisi's question, thank you to Councilor Bresnahan and Bartley, actually, before I got on board. Just got an email today, Marcotte Ford will be placing the signs up this week. Got them the Spanish translations for no loitering, as well as we just had a Springdale Ingleside community meeting with Paul there and Rosalie Williams from the school committee, who we're working with Dr. Zreich to get a no loitering sign as well in Dean Tech on the walkways. So that's all in. And then also on tonight's agenda, working with the law department and with Mr. Bassett's issues, item number 31 came as a result of these conversations. So.
Great. Thank you very much. Okay, our next citizen that signed up to speak is Aaron Brunel of 243 Oak Street. Aaron, welcome.
Hello, everyone. Thank you. I'm Erin Brunel. I live at 243 Oak Street. I'm just calling to speak. I came tonight to speak against the order that was filed to have some type of restrictions placed on drone usage. I'm not sure why the order came about. I'm not sure what the committee's intent is with it. But I personally use drone footage in my business on a daily basis, both with residential real estate, commercial real estate, as well as just general marketing videos that we've done for the city. So, you know, I just wanted to come and speak. I don't know if it's necessarily against it. I don't really see the need to get written permission to fly a drone. I certainly don't see the need for written permission to take drone footage of municipal property, because you certainly don't need permission to stand in front of City Hall and take a picture with a camera, a cell phone, any other device, especially if it's municipally owned property, which is public property. So as far as private property goes, I can say that when we are filming drone footage, we never fly outside of the designated, you know, lot parameters of the property that we're shooting. There is certainly an occasion where, you know, you might see a neighboring house on footage, but you also certainly see a neighboring home when you're using just normal stills also, because of the density of our neighborhood. So I'm not sure what the reason is for the filing of the order, but I would like to encourage City Council to just be careful of putting restrictions on things that, you know, people use on a daily basis, because I could just see it being a hassle and, you know, adding problems to a lot of the aspects that I work with. So just wanted to speak on that.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Appreciate that. Next up is Jeff Burns. Jeff hails from 74 Cherry Hill. Welcome, Jeff.
Thank you. Hope everyone's having a good night.
So I'm here to speak about my opposition against the ordinance for use of drones. According to the FAA, they advise that municipalities not be in the business of creating laws around the use of drones because they're the governing body set forth to do so. I feel like it's going to create some negativity in how people would respond to seeing them in the sky, and especially when we do have commercial applications for them. And we are allowed, a blanket of less than 200 feet to do so. And I just strongly disagree with, the potential for fines to have being out there using this. I just think that we should be very careful on how it's approached and, really do our due diligence to find out if this is something that other people are doing and if, this should even be considered on the table.
Okay, great. Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate that. Okay, next up is communications. We have first up is.
Mr. President?
Yes.
Sorry. I'd like to suspend the rules and take up item number 31, please.
Okay, item number 31. Okay. Motion to suspend the rules to go to item number 31, introduced by Counselor Roman. All in favor of suspending the rules for this purpose?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Thank you. Item number 31, that the city council adopt an ordinance to limit the hours of operation of businesses or to prohibit the 24-hour operation of businesses within the city, that the law department provide an opinion to the council as to whether such an ordinance could apply to existing businesses, as well as options of ordinance language for the city council to consider. Ordinance.
I make a motion to ordinance and a copy to the law department.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded to receive item number 31, to refer it to the ordinance committee with a copy to the law department. Any discussion? Counselor
Just
Roman?
solely so that way Mr. Bissett, who's had a long couple hours with us on the previous Springdale Neighborhood Association meeting, so we can address this and allow Mr. Bissett to go home.
Sure. Sure, we'll have you invited to the, when it comes up in ordinance too, Paul, as well. Yeah. All right. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of sending 31 to ordinance?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. All right. Communication, back to regular order, number 3. Item number 3 is a communication from the mayor vetoing our agenda item number 10 from the last meeting, and this was the item related to local approval. Yes. Yep.
Motion to override the mayor's veto.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to override the mayor's veto. Any discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will call the roll. A yes vote is in favor of the override, a no vote is to deny it.
LeBron Martinez,
Yes.
Lisi,
So for the
A
override?
yes vote is to override, a no vote is to sustain.
Yes.
McGee,
Yes vote is
Okay,
to.
a yes
I'm sorry.
vote is to override the veto, a no vote, and so it becomes law.
Okay.
A no vote is to not override and to sustain the mayor's veto.
So, yes.
Yep.
McGee. Yes. McGivern,
President, just a clarification. You said this is the, the home rule petition?
This is,
Just the,
there's no home rule petition. This is the ordinance on local approvals coming before the city council. We adopted at the last city council meeting.
hey, there's 2 vetoes before us, and I just,
The second one is related to the license issue. The mayor vetoed our ordinance on licenses. That's item number 4.
okay, which he refers to as item number 20 on the former agenda?
Correct.
Thank you.
So, Mr. President, I think I misunderstood. So the yes vote is in favor of the override of the veto.
The yes vote is to override the motion was to override, so a yes vote is to approve the override, a no vote is to not approve the override and sustain the veto.
So can I actually change my vote?
Sure.
Because I was under the misunderstanding there. So I'd like to change my vote to no.
Okay, so Councilor Lisi is a no vote.
I misunderstood as well, so I'm sorry. I
Okay,
didn't-
so Councilor LeBron Martinez is a no vote. Why don't we start this all over so we can make this really
Please,
clean?
yes.
Okay? The motion is to adopt the ordinance notwithstanding the mayor's veto, okay? And so a yes vote is to override the veto, a no vote is to sustain the veto and not override, okay? So clerk will call the roll, please.
LeBron Martinez,
No.
Lisi,
No.
To deny the veto.
LeBron Martinez,
No.
Excuse me, a no vote is to sustain the veto. Let me just be clear. I misspoke. Yes vote is to override, no vote is to sustain. I apologize. Counselor LeBron Martinez.
No.
Lisi,
No.
McGee. Yes. McGivern,
Yes.
Roman,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Tallman,
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes.
Valentine,
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Bresnahan, Shatnoff,
Yes.
Graney,
Yes.
Jordan,
Yes.
Leahy.
Yes.
13 yeas and 2 nays.
By your vote, you've overridden the veto, and that is now law. Which now brings us to item number 5. Item number 5 is the minutes of the City of Holyoke City Council meeting of February 2nd, 2016. This comes to us from our city clerk as well as our administrative assistant.
To receive and accept the minutes?
Motion's been
Second.
made and seconded to receive and accept the minutes and that they be approved. Any other discussion? Hearing any? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Item number 6. Item number 6 is the monthly budget reports for the period ending December 31st, 2015. This comes to us from Bellamy Schmidt, our acting city auditor.
Receive and refer to finance?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to receive and refer to finance. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Item number 7.
Suspend the rules and take 7 through 11 as a package, please.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to suspend the rules to take items 7 through 11 as a package. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, so moved. Item number 7 is the Board of Health minutes of January 7th, 2016. Item number 8 is the Board of Fire Commission minutes of December 7th, 2015. Item number 9 is the Board of Public Works minutes of January 4th, 2016. Item number 10 is the Sewer Commission minutes of January 4th, 2016. And finally, item number 11 is the Stormwater Authority minutes of January 4th, 2016. Motion to receive, perhaps?
Motion to receive.
Motion to receive has been made and second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Petitions. Item number 12. First comes to us a petition from Jay's B&B LLC for a new special permit for a bread and breakfast at 1109 Dwight Street.
Receive, send to DGR?
Motion's been made and seconded to receive and refer to the DGNR committee. Any discussion? Counselor McGivern.
Mr. President, I don't recall the last time we voted on a bed and breakfast. I'm not too sure this might be the first time. But I would respectfully request that a person from both the Law Department and Planning Department be present at the committee meeting for the public hearing.
Good idea. Counselor Bartley.
Yeah, and if they can't be at the public hearing, because it's, sometimes they should at least be, we should at least refer a copy of this to them so they can provide an opinion to us beforehand.
Second.
Mr. President,
Counselor Graney.
could you put a crosshairs on 1109 Dwight?
Crosshairs on 1109 Dwight.
You mean the location?
Cross.
It's across from
Across from-
Holy Cross.
Yes.
Okay.
It's the first condo down.
Yeah. Thank you. Counselor McGivern.
Although I agree, the Law Department has been wonderful with upfront information for many of these special permits on procedure and the general do's and don'ts. The problem is if they're not present at the committee meeting, especially the public hearing, you cannot have questions and answers. So I think, and this is one I think that could really have a lot of questions and answers in the neighborhood, and I think the neighborhood deserves the answers on the spot at the public hearing.
Okay. I see the chairman's hand
Yeah,
up.
yeah,
Mr. Bartley.
I agree with that. I mean, we have a lot of options at committee level, so we as a body can ask questions, and if we don't have the answers, we can table and continue the public hearing to a date certain, so long as the law department and the planning board can work in their schedules. I hate to overburden them more than we do, but, so hopefully they can attend, when we'll schedule at some point in probably April, and we'll figure it out.
Sure. Counselor Valentin.
Thank you. Since this property is in Ward 4, I just wanted to clarify because Councilor Graney had a question about the location. So it's the single standing house that's, as you're going down Dwight, that is across from Lady of the Cross. It's not the first house that's actually condos. So it's the single standing house, just to clarify so that people don't think it's that condo building.
It's the second house, though. Like,
Correct. It's the second on the left, and it's literally across the street from Lady of the Cross.
Okay, yeah, right.
Judge Maynard.
I just wanted to clarify, it's not a condo. It's not Airbnb here, so.
Right. It is a single-family home.
Yes,
right now.
yes.
Perfect. Okay,
And it's
great.
owned by Jesus Candelario, who's known as Jay, and he's been working really hard to get this off the ground, so.
Okay, great. Any other thoughts? All right. Motion on the floor is to send to the DGNR committee. All in
The
favor of
copy
that?
Copy to planning and legal.
and with a copy to planning and legal. Okay, all in favor of that?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Item number 13 is a petition from Attorney Toby Wilson. This is for a zone change from R1A to BH for 1575 Northampton Street.
Receive, send to ordinance.
Okay, motion on the floor is to send to ordinance, and this is the former Lynch School, just as so folks are familiar with that. And that motion is been made and seconded to refer to ordinance. Any discussion on this item? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No. No.
Motion to suspend the necessary rules, take up item 37 out of order.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded to take up item number 37 out of order. Item number 30, all in favor of suspending the rules for that purpose?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Item number 37 is an order introduced by Councilor Jordan that Chapter 54 of the Hoyoke Code of Ordinances be amended to make it unlawful to use a drone to fly over private property of another without their prior written consent. They also shall be prohibited from flying over any municipal property without prior written consent of the city. A violation shall be subject to a fine. A drone shall be defined as any unmanned aerial system.
Receive, send to ordinance.
Yep. Any discussion? None, we'll save it for ordinance. All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Off to ordinance. Okay. And we are now back to President's report.
Briefly.
First thing I would like to make mention, and I'm going to recognize Counselor Bartley to just give a quick on, we recently lost someone, your former predecessor in your chair, and would you just like to make a few comments on a former Ward 3 counselor?
Sure, I would. And so we'll just ask for a moment of silence after I do that. But this is for Tom Monahan, who was a very good friend of my family, and he was the Ward 3 counselor for, I think, 12 terms in the 60s and 70s and up to the 80s. And he was also city council president for, I think, 5 terms. And so he passed away on, I think he was 92. And so he passed away on Monday, and did a lot for the city, did a lot for Ward 3, and he was and even though he moved out of town a few years ago, he always was very interested in it and tuned into what was happening in Holyoke, and this is really where his heart lied. So I just want to, if we could have a moment of silence for former Ward 3 Alderman Tom Monahan.
Thank you. I think it's always great we recognize our former colleagues of this great institution. Now, also recognizing the same person, but I'm going to do this discussion, is I received some really wonderful news today that Councilor Bartley has received an honor from local veterans of being Counselor of the Year. And I wanted to just say really commendable work on Councilor Bartley's part. I know he's a tireless advocate for veterans, and we're particularly impressed with your work in the creation of the Purple Heart Trail through Holyoke, and I'm certainly can see why the local veterans have recognized your great work, and I'm really impressed. And I'm certainly on behalf of the whole body, congratulations.
Okay, thank you.
So other than that, that about wraps up for the president's report for this particular meeting. And the only other thing I was just going to mention is, and it was kind of touched on the other day in terms of the late files issue. And I want to thank a couple of our counselors for really pointing this out. And we will all collectively try to work to do a better job in this regard. And this passes also for the mayor's office and all the way around. We will do our best to be respectful of the well-placed points that were made on those by a couple of our counselors. Thank you for that.
With that in mind, how many late files are there?
Too many. 2.
Was 0 at press time.
0.
Yay!
That's impressive, Howie.
It's about time that we streamline this organization.
Move the question, right, Howie? That's
correct.
I just had an announcement,
Counselor
Mr.
Roman.
President. I wanted to remind counselors that this Thursday is the first committee meeting of the Joint Committee of the School Committee and City Council, so all council members are invited. We have Dr. Wright coming into chambers to speak with us. And again, I applaud Counselor Bartley for teaching me the ropes when you invite public officials in, so we're following the Bartley method. Counselor Bartley, thank you for our committee meeting. So counselors are more than welcome, and I also wanted to acknowledge Counselor Leahy for being the sole colleague to submit questions on behalf of the council. There still is time if any counselors would like to submit questions. I will be emailing Dr. Reich tomorrow morning with a list of any questions that you all may have. Please forward those to Ryan and Liz, and we'll get that over to Dr. Reich for our committee meeting on Thursday.
We can't just do any tough, surprising ones and zing them in at the meeting?
Try.
All right. Counselor Valentin.
I think the Bartley method is a trademark. I
Yes.
don't know. That sounds like it. I just wanted to make a quick announcement. I know sometimes, as President's Report is happening right after, some of us go ahead and make announcements about fundraisers in the community and such, so I wanted to take that opportunity. This Saturday, February 20th, we will be doing the Vagina Monologues again at the War Memorial in English and Spanish. It is to benefit Safe Passage, which is in Northampton, and also Women's Shelter Compañeras, which does domestic violence work here in Holyoke. So it's a great cause, and just wanted to let everyone know that that's happening this Saturday.
Great.
Thank you.
Anything else, Counselor
Yeah,
Gray?
quickly, Counselor Rowland, what was the date on that meeting with Dr. Reich?
It's this Thursday, Counselor Graney, 6 o'clock here in Chambers, the 18th.
So if we show up, we're not able to ask
No,
the receiver any questions that we might like to at the time?
No, that's incorrect. You totally are. We just wanted to ensure that if there's any pressing questions or detailed questions, like Counselor Leahy provided very specific statistics, that that Dr. Reich is fully prepared with those specific questions, with stats or any kind of figures. You're totally welcome.
It is an open forum, is what you're saying.
For the counselors and the school committee, yes, and there's a public comment section for the public to be able to give their input to us, and we would, and we've already talked to Dr. Reich about having him come back in April as well.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
I think the point is if you wanted some detailed data, he has time to bring it to the meeting. Okay, great. So moving on to Ordinance Committee reports. First up is item 14A. This is a report from the Committee on Ordinance to whom was referred an order that an ordinance be created to allow renters access to DPW facilities to bring refuse and surplus items just like homeowners. That this having been considered, that the order be adopted. Councilors Vacan, Shatnoff, Bartley, and Jordan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to offer a motion to amend the committee report.
Okay? Is there,
And the.
Just state the amendment.
The amendment is to add to what you just read, and that a $10 annual fee will be charged.
okay.
Second.
All right, so let's just make it a little bit more specific, right? And I think this was the intention, but for somehow it didn't get into the final draft.
Correct.
So we just want to be a little clear at this last sentence. Let me read the ordinance as it's written and currently, and then we'll go, it's only two sentences. The Department of Public Works shall establish a policy for access to the city's drop-off center. The policy shall provide that residents of the city who rent property shall have the same access to the facility as homeowners and may be charged a fee for such access. The amendment, if I understand correctly, is to change from may be charged a fee for such access, will be charged a fee of $10 for such access.
Yes.
So instead of making it, shall be charged a fee of $10. So instead of it being vague, it'll be specifically $10.
An annual fee.
A $10 annual fee.
Can I just ask a question on that amendment?
Sure, let's just get, that is the motion, that is the amendment made and seconded. Do you want to speak to the
Yes,
amendment
please.
first? Okay, we're going to let the originator speak for it, Counselor Vacan.
Thank you.
Then we'll have discussion. Counselor Vacan, you're
So
up.
the legal form has included the $10 annual charge, and it was discussed and voted in committee that night. And the basis of the discussion was that people that are renting may be there 1 year and not there another year. And there were questions about access and knowing who would be using the service. And so this was felt to be a way that if people want to use it, they can. If they don't have to. If they're successful dealing with their issues in another way, but this would allow, not an onerous way, but a way of making sure Holyoke residents are using the DPW.
Counselor Bresnahan.
No, I'm all set, thank you.
Are you all set? Counselor McGivern had his hand up.
I attended the committee, and I think this is long overdue. I didn't object to the $10 fee in committee. My only question is how the DPW is going to monitor the fee if we make it an annual one. If a person, realizes they have a bulk item to dispose of in December, is the annual fee from December to December, or is it a calendar year or fiscal calendar year that the DPW would, charge 10 in December and then force them to get another permit come January?
You want me to- Yeah, the current policy that they have now, it's calendar year, and I would assume that homeowners get this for free, but there was the view that since homeowners are paying taxes, this is, I believe I'm synopsizing the committee discussion, was that the $10 would be something from renters in that theory. And so when they go to renew, they'd have to pay the $10 to renew the card. Because they check your card, as you know, when they come into the barn.
So they need a card annually.
Correct. So they're gonna have the same thing as a homeowner has, the same card.
Thank you.
Okay, Counselor Leahy has the floor.
Very quickly, if I could, through the chair, maybe you said this and I just missed it. How many times are they eligible for using that card through the?
The same as a homeowner, I
Four
believe.
times?
It's
Seven times.
Seven
Seven.
times? Okay, so.
30 for, like lawn materials.
So I think
but-
this is a great order, and I'm glad that the committee, as Councilor McGivern said, it's long overdue. The fact that we have so many renters in this town, and the fact that they couldn't do this with the DPW, I just think it was a shame. But I think this is great that we can do this now. And oftentimes I'm reminded when I say that renter people aren't taxpayers. They are. They just, it's through their rent that they're paying their taxes. And I also, well, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, great. Counselor Sullivan.
For the chair, even though the 7 times, there's restrictions on the certain numbers of items. You go over that number, they'd still be subject to the same fees.
Correct. And for the certain special types of items, all the same rules will apply.
Any other thoughts, discussion? Okay.
I have a quick question.
Yeah, sure.
I'm
Counselor
sorry.
Bresnahan.
Linda, was Bill here? Was Bill from the DPW, was he here?
He was not here. I believe he'd been at committee at a prior meeting when a similar type of item had come up. It might have been specifically about bulk items. And I think he had some concern about that because of the amount that there might be.
Right, because, my only thought is that, as everybody knows, we have to pay to get rid of that stuff. And the DEP will make that a transfer station. Like, Bill's already been fighting with the DEP because they want to make that place a transfer station. We got to get rid of the Freon, the propane. I hope Bill is aware of this because we have to unload all those televisions, refrigerators, air conditioners. They don't just disappear into space. We have to pay to get rid of them ourselves. And he doesn't want to turn that place into a transfer station because, we do have another one on Main Street. So I just hope somebody from the DPW was maybe here, or an email making them aware that this is going to go down.
Well, actually, one of the things the committee found out was that they actually had a policy, but there was no ordinance whatsoever to even back up the current policy. That's why the first sentence of this ordinance actually gives them the authority to create a policy. So right now, we're just giving legislative support to what they're doing. It does expand it from homeowners to also renters. So that part is true, but the first part for homeowners just mirrors the identical current rules. Yeah, Counselor Bacon.
That is a good question, and I don't know if he is immediately aware of this, but I do think if the volume becomes something that they can't handle at the site, that certainly we would have to step back and take a look at how we're going to manage it.
Yeah. Counselor Sullivan.
One more question for the chair. How do we arrive at the $10 figure?
My recollection of the discussion was just that there should be a process and a fee so that we are certain that the people reside in Holyoke, and that it was basically just to cover the processing of the card more than anything.
So they're going to be getting the photo ID and all of that stuff?
They'll get the card that they present at DPW that gives them the 7 visits. but they'll get it each year. Because they may live there a year and move, or they may live there for many years, but it's a group of people that tend to move more than the homeowners. So it's more a processing fee than a charge to access the service.
I mean, did we feel $20 or $25 for a processing fee was too much, or?
Well, my recollection of the discussion was just that it was to cover the cost of getting the card and giving the card. It wasn't really it was just really to provide access, more than a revenue-generating program, per se.
Any other discussion? Okay, hearing none. All in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Now
So a motion to receive, adopt, and pass the first reading?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to pass the first reading, and I'll just remind also for Ryan's benefit, Brenna's benefit, and Kara's benefit, the last clause now reads, "and shall be charged a fee of $10 for such access." Annually. Okay? Just so we have that, the amendment that was just adopted, just so we're crystal clear on that little clause. Okay, motion on the floor is to pass the first reading as amended. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Motion to pass the second reading?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to pass the second reading. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Motion that the passage be ordained.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded that the passage be ordained. There is no further discussion. The clerk will call the roll. A yes vote is in favor of adopting the ordinance change. A no vote is to deny it.
LeBron Martinez,
Yes.
Lisi,
Yes.
McGee, McGivern,
Yes.
Roman,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Tallman,
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes.
Valentine,
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Bresnahan,
Yes.
Shatnoff,
Yes.
Graney,
No.
Jordan,
Yes.
Leahy.
Yes.
14 yeas and 1 nay.
By your vote, you've approved the ordinance change. Thank you, sir. Item number 14B is a report from the committee.
Mr. President, a motion to combine, to take up as a package 14B through 14J, please.
Okay. Okay, motion on the floor is to suspend the rules to take up items 14B through 14J as a package. Any objection? No, without objection to that? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. These are now a package. 14B is a report from the committee. All these are reports from Committee on Ordinance. The first being ordered that ordinances be reviewed to make sure that large commercial vehicles such as tractor-trailer trucks are not being parked on residential streets overnight or for longer than 1 hour. The second one, 14C, is whereas traffic on Route 141 routinely blocks the intersection at Lindor Heights, ordered that the DPW paint a do not block the box with cross hatching at the intersection, install appropriate signage. 14D was referred in order that any hotel providing rooms for homeless individuals and/or families in cooperation with the state of Massachusetts for transitional assistance and community service that results in an increase in police calls exceeding the calls from the time prior to accepting these individuals and families shall provide private security or pay police officers for security from the hours of 6 p.m. to 2 a.m. 7 days per week to ensure the safety of residents and the availability of police coverage throughout the city. Item 14E states an order that prior to seizure of any building for back taxes or other debt, the treasurer shall present for approval the city council documentation of financial impact of such seizure, including any anticipated legal costs, rehab and demo costs, expected revenue. 14F reads that the city council pursuant to ordinance 9090 hold a public hearing to consider a modest change in the rates, recommend that this be given leave to withdraw. All of these, you'll see, are all of that recommendation. 14G is ordered that the council petition the general court, I believe it was to, no, yes, it was G, to what number was in the special, to J, thank you. I just want to make sure I don't overdo it. Petition the general court to enact appropriate legislation allowing the enlargement of the license commission from 3 to 5 members. 14H, an order that the DPW develop and implement a plan to accept bulk items from rental tenants residing in Holyoke. 14I, that the DPW develop and implement a plan to accept yard waste from business properties located in Holyoke, including appropriate charges to support the costs. 14J, an order that the DPW develop and implement a plan for curbside pickup of bulk items for residents of Holyoke, including appropriate charges to cover the costs of pickup and disposal. Recommendation from the ordinance committee is that all of these items, 14B through 14J, be given leave to withdraw. Under discussion, the chair, Councilor Bacon.
Thank you, Mr. President. So in most case, these orders had not been acted on since 2014. In a couple of cases, the orders had been acted upon, and so these are either duplicates or had been dealt with through another process through the city council in the last year or two. And so upon review by the committee and the body as a whole, because I did send these out for everybody on the council to review, and there were a couple that were taken up upon request of the councilors. So these, as we're going through the folder, were in those two categories. So my motion would be to accept the committee report and adopt the committee report.
Second.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded to receive the committee recommendation to give all of these items leave to withdraw. Any discussion against that? Or for it, for that matter? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Let me just get these all processed here. Okay. We had no Finance Committee reports for this particular meeting, as well as no Public Safety Committee reports, which now brings us to Public Service. Item number 17A.
Receive and adopt.
Okay.
The committee report.
Sure. The Committee on Public Service, to whom was referred an order that the council move to fill the already ordained youth representative seat in council meetings, advertising, interviewing, and fill the seat no longer later than 2/15/15. Recommend that the order be adopted and referred to Dr. Zreich. Motion on the floor is to receive and adopt. Under discussion, Councilor Leahy.
Yeah, thank you. So we had a meeting about, I think it was 2 weeks ago, and this is already a rule in our rules. It's rule number 65, and I'll just briefly go through it for you guys. Rule 65 is the city council shall appoint a youth ambassador to the city council. The term shall last 1 year starting July 1st to June 30th. Appointees shall be eligible to serve only one term. Individuals eligible for this position must be a Holyoke resident enrolled in a local high school or an equivalent program and be in the range of 15 to 17 years of age. And what this youth will do, whoever is appointed, will have specific responsibilities, such as they'll be allowed to speak during the public comment period, attend all the regular meetings of the city council, whatever subcommittees they choose to go to, give a youth ambassador report at the beginning of the first meeting of every month, very similar to our president's report, but hopefully briefer, just kidding. Request that the city council, they can request at any time a city councilor file an order to give a proclamation to a youth in the city of Holyoke. They'll sit in at the city council chambers, specifically at that table in front of us. They will attend any youth-related events on behalf of the city council, and they will try to meet youth in other municipalities to see what they're up to. And pretty much what we decided to do, because I think this order was filed prior to having Dr. Zreich with us. We made a motion to send it over to Dr. Zreich for him to distribute to guidance counselors from all the appropriate schools and different programs that are offered in the city of Holyoke.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Councilor Roman.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I was wondering if I could just make and offer a friendly amendment. This is also be sent over to the two directors of our local charter schools here and any other equivalent or private program or school, regardless of our views on those programs. Those are also youth equivalent that are still residents of the city of Holyoke.
Yeah,
a lot of them are
that's already
residents.
included as youth equivalent, and
But-
Dr. Zreich will send it out to all the different schools. I mean, for instance, there's a school, I believe at HEC for it's some sort of high school program. So we included that as well. That was mentioned at the meeting.
through you, Mr. Chairman, those school districts though are separate and listed separate. Each charter school is its own independent director outside of Dr. Reich. So I just think for the optics of it, I think it's in the best interest, again, through the maker, just a friendly amendment to include those two directors listed as well, and any other private school as well that's not under Dr. Reich's jurisdiction.
Second.
I don't have any problem with that.
I think, to your point, Counselor Roman, I think that's already under the rule. Like if you go to Rule 65, it says, individuals eligible for this position must be Holyoke resident enrolled in a local high school or equivalent program and be in the range of 15 to 17 years of age. So I think we've covered that under the rule. So we'll send it to Reich and theoretically the two charter schools.
Yep.
Anybody else? I don't know if there's other quote-unquote equivalent program. Counselor McGivern.
I don't think any Holyoke resident, any Holyoke youth should be excluded. Anyone who's going to, using the school choice program, it should be notified that they are also eligible. I don't have any problem with sending it to Dr. Reich, but the second point I'd like to make is that I just don't know if Dr. Reich is in favor of this. And if he's not, I think we should go through the principals of all the schools, guidance counselors, and make sure that the word gets out there that we're looking for eligible candidates. Perhaps the school committee could help us out too.
Maybe we'll start with good faith that he's in favor, and if we get nothing or he says I'm not in favor, then we go to Plan B, right? The only thing on the school choice kids, who would we, we're going to send a letter to every 15 to 17-year-old that goes to school out of town. I don't know.
It's a good question, Mr. President. I don't know how many of them there are.
Yeah.
Maybe we can ask Dr. Reich on Thursday.
But he
via
should know
email
who those
first
people are, right?
to find out how many of them there are.
And hopefully he would know who they are. Counselor Valentin.
Just in support of Councilor Broman's point about being more inclusive, I guess the concern is when you see that it's just going to Dr. Reich, it sounds like it's very limited. And so, whatever way, like Councilor Leahy just said, yeah, we do have some programs at HCC that include some of these students, and they're in this age group as well. And so I guess, I don't know, I mean, the wording of how it is right now, it seems pretty limiting just to send it to him. So I'm fine with starting with that, but I just think we need to make sure that it's an inclusive process, that's all.
Well, what if we said Dr. Reich and the heads of the two charter schools? Does that cover everybody?
Well, there's other schools. I mean, that's the point that I think several folks are making. I mean.
Do you have the name of the HCC person, or?
Well, no, I don't think it needs to go back to committee. It's just a matter of, I mean, we can try, and maybe Dr. Reich has all these contacts,
Okay.
and he can just be the distributing person.
To my point on the motion.
But, well, I'm sorry, but I have the floor for
Be
a
sorry,
minute.
it's
So,
okay.
but the point is, the way this is phrased, because it just says Dr. Reich, it sounds as if it's the public schools, and that's it. And so as long as we're all on the same page and that's what we're voting on, it's fine with me.
Sure.
Thank you.
And Counselor Roman, just so I understand your amendment clearly, it's to say Dr. Reich and what? Or just Dr. Reich, but with Dr. Reich with an understanding, give it to charter schools?
Adopted and referred to all heads of schools, I guess, because Dr. Reich, the charter schools, I work for Lighthouse Holyoke that is outside of the charter schools, and we are our own education institution that has 25 teens that are, majority, 12 of them are from the city of Holyoke. So it's just, I would say any school program or organization in the city of Holyoke with teens within this age range. Yeah, there you go.
Okay, so that's the amendment. Is there a second to that?
Second.
Second, okay, Counselor McGivern.
Just real quick, Mr. President, is there a deadline for when we'll be interviewing the candidates?
I think when we get the names, we'll try and do it as quick as we can.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay, Counselor LeBron
Yeah, I
Martinez.
just want to say that I recall that when Mr. Ferreira Jason filed this motion, this order, one of the things that was discussed is that there's alternative education in the city, and that should have been considered as part of inclusion of others, because I know like the care center, I remember mentioning that then, that the care center is an institution where it's bringing people together to also obtain their high set, but at the same time they do have a voice. And I think that was the conversation then. New England Farm Worker has a program here too, who has teens between the ages 16 through 21, providing them opportunities of education. So I remember those conversations. So just if we could say alternative education, it'll include any other that may be available too.
Okay. Of course, we're just going to need names and addresses to send to these people because the post office requires a specific name and address. Counselor Lisi.
Thank you. As a co-sponsor of the order that Councilor Jay Ferreira filed, I'd like to say that I'm really excited to see that we're making some progress on this rule. It's been a rule for some time, but we've had some trouble enforcing it just because of this exact reason. The point of contacts in terms of soliciting the names has been very convoluted. So I think that Dr. Zreich is a great first first wave or low-hanging fruit in terms of getting the solicitation out there to our public school system. But we did write the rule rather, so that it was absolutely inclusive of every youth in the city. The challenge is making sure that we're getting the solicitation, the request for their application out as broadly as possible. So I think, Councilor Roman, if we could make use of our meeting on Thursday with Dr. Zreich to see if he has an inventory of the different educational facilities, we could then follow up with our administrative assistant to generate an actual mailing list. And perhaps that we interpret the adoption of this order as this conversation that will happen on Thursday, and we could get the list of all the principals, so that it's going to the principals of the schools and the directors of whatever other educational institutions there are.
Okay, great. Any other discussion? Counselor Tallman?
I'll just give a brief minute or two. I think this is something we talked about for a number of years, and it seems like every election year that's one thing brought up by the Youth Commission is somebody having a voice here at the City Council. And it's, as you said, we should have that inclusive, and this should be moved on, because I think Councilor Bresnan just talked to me. It's been working on this for about 5 years, I think. 5 or 6 years, been talking about having a representative, and I think it's about time that we do that.
Okay, sounds good.
President?
Councilor Bartley.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. So this was introduced by Jay Ferreira in 2012, so it's been that long, so about 4 years. And so I want to credit Jay. I'm sorry it took so long to get to this point. We tried to move it along last year, but it stalled again. But I want to thank Councilor Leahy and the Public Service Committee for getting this before us. And, I mean, this is supposed to be a joyful thing. This has been like a joyless conversation we've just had. I mean, talk about taking the air out of the balloon. This is going to be a happy kind of event, a positive thing. I mean, we're going to be as inclusive as humanly possible. Huge tent here. So I'm very excited about it. We'll ask as many people as possible. Dr. Zreich and everybody else. It's just going to be great. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to having the voice here and get really, if we had, Mr. President, a halfway decent website in the city, perhaps we could have advertised it on our city website under a city council page.
That's the easy way.
That was halfway decent. But we can't even get TV cameras to work in here without smoke screen for half the meetings and mics that go out. But and what do we only got about $1 million, $1.2 million in the bank account for the just $1 million here for the cable TV fee, the franchise fee, my favorite fee of all. So
we'll call the treasurer.
So yeah, this is actually a very joyful thing. I'm so happy that the Public Service Committee brought this before it, and I'm in full support. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, very good. Any other thoughts on this? Great. All in favor of it? We'll be back up on the amendment to include Dr. Zreich and heads of other equivalent schools. All in favor of that amendment?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. On adoption of this committee report as amended, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Item 17B comes from the Committee on Public Service, to whom was referred a City Council, an order that the City Council review Mr. Seth Taylor's reappointment to the Conservation Commission. Have considered the same, recommend that the appointee be confirmed. Councilors Leahy, Valentin, and LeBron Martinez.
Receive and adopt and reappoint them.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to receive and adopt the committee report to confirm the appointment. Under discussion, Councilor Leahy.
Very briefly, we had a good conversation with Mr. Taylor. Mr. Taylor works for a company called GZA Environmental. His primary role is inspecting dams, and he writes studies regarding wetlands, and he also writes permits to get projects approved. He's very, very knowledgeable with the DEP, all of our conversation, all of our rules, to be honest with you. A lot of questions were brought up regarding the different environmental areas that we have in the city of Holyoke, which are plentiful. Also, we have a lot of different areas that could be intermediate streams or streams, and there's a question here and there's a question there. And we also have a lot of canals, and so questions were brought up with that as well. I feel that he's an excellent addition to this board, and I'd like to turn it over to the person who wanted to go to committee if he wants to say anything, Michael Sullivan.
Counselor Sullivan, did you have any thoughts, or you're all set?
I think Jim covered it all right there.
Okay, very good. Any other thoughts? Hearing none, all in favor of adopting the committee report and confirming the reappointment?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Item number 17C is a committee report from the Committee on Public Service, to whom is referred an order that the City Council review the reappointment of Anya Duffy to the Conservation Commission. Recommend that the appointment be confirmed. This is coming to us from Mayor Morse.
Yeah, thank you.
Committee report recommended that it be confirmed.
Yeah, receive and adopt, confirm.
Yeah, motion's been made and seconded to receive and adopt the committee report and confirm the appointment. Under discussion, Councilor Leahy.
Yeah, another excellent conversation, and that's what it was. It wasn't an interview, it was just more of a conversation. She, in her professional life, is a landscape architect, and she finds the work on the Conservation Commission very exciting, and the knowledge base that she brings to it is just like Mr. Taylor is just, you can pay people like this to have on your commission. Both of them wonderful people, but in this case, we're talking about Ms. Duffy. She sees a lot of projects and development upcoming in the city. She stated that she likes to work with the applicants and developers, and she likes to have applicants and the developers both win and move on and move forward with the different projects, which is good because you don't want one person just always be trying to not get a development through, and you certainly you don't want it single-sided, and she didn't appear to be that way at all. She's a stickler by the rules, and she knows the conservation criteria very well, and it was a pleasure to talk with her. Once again, if Michael Sullivan has anything to say, I'll turn it over to him.
Once again, Jim's covered it pretty well. I was very pleased with Ms. Duffy's responses to the pointed questions I had. We've had some, I had some concerns about overzealousness and overstepping bounds, and she answered all those to my satisfaction, and I'm sure she'll be a great asset to the city.
Thank you. Councilor Bresnahan.
I would just like to point out that when Councilor Sullivan wanted to call in these folks that were already on the commission, it was an uproar, and it was a great, I was at the meeting, it was a great meeting. Mike Sullivan was real respectful. He wasn't hammering anybody about anything in particular. He was just saying, hey, running thoughts by him. So I don't think it's what my point is that it might not necessarily be a bad idea to invite someone that's been on a commission for 2, 3, 4, 5 terms, bring them back in, recognize their face again, and maybe throw a few questions at them. It was a good meeting.
Any other thoughts? Okay. All in favor of adopting the committee report and confirming the reappointment? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Item 17D is a report from the Committee on Public Service, to whom was referred an order that Mayor Morse, the tax collector David Guzman, come into the City Council chambers to discuss the head clerk position that is vacant in the tax collector's office. Have considered the same, recommend that the order be given leave to withdraw. Councilors Leahy, Valentin, and LeBron Martinez.
Make a motion to receive, adopt, and give to leave withdrawal.
Yep. Motion's been made and seconded to receive and adopt the committee report and give the matter leave to withdraw. Under discussion, Councilor Leahy.
Just having said that, it's kind of a moot point. Unfortunately, we had another great department head move on from the city. It's just, as a city councilor, one of 15, who's a fantastic person to work with, and to this day, I wish he was still here. But I wish him and his family the best.
Any other discussion? Councilor Bresnahan.
Again, real quick, Dave Guzman actually did come into a public service meeting, and we did talk to him, and the mayor was invited to come in as well. The mayor didn't come in, Dave came in. We actually went into executive sessions, I believe.
That's right.
And so Dave was, it was probably 45 minutes to an hour long. Dave was very forthcoming. At this point, he wasn't leaving. We didn't know he was leaving. But, everybody was given the ability and the chance to speak about what went down, and David was good enough to come in and tell us his side of the story.
Anybody else? All in favor of adopting the committee report?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. We have no DGNR committee reports for this particular meeting, no Charter and Rules Committee
Mr. President?
reports. Yes, sir, Counselor
Just a
Green.
question through the chair.
Yep.
I realize that I cannot make a motion to reconsider an item because I voted on the negative side. But I would just like to ask the chair if you realize that 14A, as it's written, when that goes in, that we just passed 14-1, could create a very heavy logistical problem for the DPW. I just want to get that out there.
Okay.
7 times for each renter, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I can't move to reconsider, but I just want to get that out there.
No, I understand, and as you know, under the current rules, you're allowed to speak twice and with the permission of the body a third time, and you would have been welcome to make any and all those points in your times.
Just so
Counselor,
there's no misunderstanding, anyone can move to reconsider at any time.
of course, yeah, I mean,
I think Councilor Graney might have misinterpreted.
Oh, okay.
A Robert's rules as opposed to our own rules.
Well, I
Our
was
own
going-
rules allow anyone to reconsider.
I was going under Robert's rules.
Our own rules allow anyone to reconsider.
Then I could move to reconsider?
course.
Then I would. 14A.
okay. Motion to reconsider, is there a second? Okay, motion to reconsider our action on 14A. Show of hands, this is a majority vote required to go back and reconsider our action on 14A. Raise your hand if you're in favor of reconsideration.
I would,
What'd you have? Let me see the hand, hold the hands up.
but it's not because we're
Oh,
changing
he's
our
trying
minds.
to persuade
He wants to defeat
Is
it.
that the point?
7, sorry, motion fails.
Well, I mean,
Okay,
come to a subcommittee hearing. I mean,
moving right along.
talk it out there. We went through it 5 times already.
He watched it on TV.
Moving right along.
Christ.
Motions, orders, and resolutions, item number 20, introduced by Counselor Leahy. Ordered that the Mass Department of Transportation install a sign that reads, "No Jake Brakes" at the beginning of the ramp at exit 16 off of I-91.
Can I
Counselor
actually make an
Leahy.
amendment? If I could, received, adopts in the Department of Transportation, District 2 in
Okay.
Northampton.
Motion's been made and seconded to receive, adopt, and refer to Mass DOT District 2 under discussion. Counselor Leahy.
Yeah, thank you. So, since having filed this order, I've driven around and I've seen similar signs, but they don't say Jake Brakes, they say engine brakes. So if I can just make a motion to change that from Jake Brakes to engine brakes?
Yep.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to amend the order to say no engine brakes as opposed to no Jake brakes. All in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Okay. Motion on the floor right now is to adopt and refer to the Mass DOT District 2. Counselor McGee.
Can we also send a DPW?
Okay.
Because they put up signs for me as well, with regards to this type of stuff throughout Ward 6, so they can put up signs too, Jimmy, just to let you know. And we did pass, I do believe we have an ordinance on this.
Yes. That's what created the ones coming down 141 behind Dillon
So
Ave
if
by
it
Lynch.
does fit
Those
within that, Jimmy,
signs.
just, because they can put up right up
Those
there.
were city
That'd
put
be
up
awesome.
ones.
You know, if I could, so I went up and spoke to the neighbor, and actually, one of the neighbors is a former city councilor. However, as I'm standing there talking with the neighbor who had asked me to do this, it was happening. I mean, these engine brakes, Jake brakes, are incredibly loud. And
Big
if
time.
trucks are coming out, you know, whether they're going to Stop and Shop, Kmart, wherever, for their deliveries, you know, it saves, you know, on their engine, saves their brakes. So I understand what the truckers are doing. However, you know, these poor family members aren't sleeping well. Thank you.
Counselor McGivern.
I realize the request for this location is actually on state property on 91.
Yes.
But my question is twofold, both for the DPW or for the city and for 91 is, how would you enforce this if the state doesn't have a law, or is it, or, you know, if they put up the sign, is it part of a state law? And two is, our local ordinances are specific to each sign, to each location, just like a speed limit. So if we want to enforce it locally, we need to create an ordinance. And I think the state may need to create something themselves, or it's more just of a yellow cautionary sign.
If I recall the recollection of the conversation was, I don't think you're looking to create a fine per se.
No.
I think this is considered deemed an informational sign, and I think that's why we didn't need an ordinance. But if you're going to create a fine, then yes, you would need an ordinance. It's like, you know, slow down children, or we don't need ordinances to put those type of signs up. It's informational. No.
Truckers are gonna realize that real quick and pay no attention to it.
Well, yeah, I suppose, but who's gonna really sit there and, it's tough to catch them. I mean, they're already gone by the time you're gonna tag them with a fine on something like this anyways, but that's up to Counselor Leahy. Do you want to create an ordinance?
I think at this point, I think it's just fine to have, one of those discretionary.
Start with the signs.
Start with it and see how these people feel.
Okay, so send to District 2 as well as the DPW?
Yep, thank you.
Okay. All right, any other discussion?
If it could, if Councilor Bartley wants his name added to this, it's Ward 3.
Okay, adding Counselor Bartley as a co-sponsor. I'd like to be added as a co-sponsor,
Sure,
if that's
absolutely.
okay, because I got the other side of the street. You can hear it from that side, too. Until I get some sound barriers, right?
Way up on that mountain?
No, my constituents on Cherry. I'm not hearing them on Raymond Ave. So, motion on the floor is to receive, adopt, as amended, no engine brakes, Mass DOT District 2 and DPW.
Yes, sir.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Item 21, introduced by Counselor McGee, that in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53A, the City Council hereby accept the provisions of the Emergency Management Performance Grant, authorizes the establishment of a fund or other method appropriate for the accounting of the receipts and expenditures of all resources associated with the administration of that grant.
Finance?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to receive, refer to finance. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Thank you, sir. Item 22 is an order introduced by Counselor McGee. That in accordance with Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53A, the City Council hereby accepts the provisions of the Hydroelectric Generation Unit Upgrade Grant and authorizes the establishment of a fund or other method appropriate for the accounting of the receipts and expenditures of all resources associated with the administration of said grant.
Finance?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to receive and refer to finance. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Item number 23. Item number 23 is an order introduced by Counselor Roman. The City of Holyoke create a three-way stop at the intersections of Papineau as well as Temple Street to reduce the level of speeding vehicles passing through without slowing down. Also, the intersection is located behind the Robert F. Kennedy Children's Home School. Ordinance?
Yes, Mr. President.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded to receive, refer to ordinance. Any discussion?
Constituent request, Mr. President.
Sounds good. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Item number 24, introduced by Counselor Roman.
Mr. President, I'd like to suspend the rules and take up items 24 and 25 as a package, please.
Okay.
Sending them to the same
Motion's
place.
been made and seconded to suspend rules to take up items 24 and 25 as a package. All in favor of that suspension?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Item number 24, both these come to us by way of Counselor Roman. First up, City of Holyoke Fire Department take over as emergency medical dispatch for the City of Holyoke. Item number 25, City of Holyoke Fire Department serve as backup basic life support ambulance for the City of Holyoke.
I'd like to send these both to finance. Don't kill me, Todd.
Or how about public safety?
Oh, public safety.
Would
Yeah,
that be?
yeah. I was
Unless you
exploring
wanna
more-
send to
I was
finance, maybe
preferring
it's-
finance to have the discussion around the financial implications.
Generally, that's fire department is public safety, but whatever, but finance is fine too. I mean, it does, no question, financial implication. All right,
I make the recommendation to send to public safety.
public safety. Okay. So, is there a second?
Second.
Motion on the floor has been made and seconded to send items 24 and 25 to public safety. Any discussion? Counselor Roman.
So don't kill me, Dan, then. Again, just in serving on this new committee, whenever we finally get the chance to sit down around revenue-generating streams for the City of Holyoke, I look forward to actually sitting in the mayor's office with my 5 other colleagues and talking about the structural deficit. To me, in my research as a counselor and just, taking a tour again of the fire department, looking at these 2 revenue-generating streams, the hope is that we can have these conversations. I've talked to, several residents. We want to start addressing these issues. We're talking about the fire department budget, police department budget. These are 2, specifically within the fire department, streams of revenue that we could be getting in the City of Holyoke that I think are just a win-win for the city, in my opinion. But I would love to start having those conversations and hashing them out.
And just for the record, we did send in the names several weeks ago. We have not gotten a response yet for a meeting, so I did send that reminder. I CC'd you, Counselor Roman. So hopefully that Structural Deficit Committee will be starting pretty soon. Next up is Counselor Lisi. Counselor Lisi.
Thank you. I just wanted to remind Councilor Roman and others that once we had the discussion in public safety about what the programs would look like, the orders can be forwarded to the Finance Committee to examine the financials.
Good point. Yeah. Okay, all in favor of referring these two orders to public safety?
Aye.
Opposed, so moved. Item number 26. Item number 26 is that the current bus stop in front of 60, 62, 64 Hampshire Street be moved in front of the open lot located at 74 Maple.
Mr. President, I'm sorry, I need to amend that. That's supposed to be Hampshire. That was my
74
error.
Hampshire?
Yes, Mr. President, sorry.
All right, no problem. Motion on the floor is to amend Maple to the word Hampshire. All in
Second.
favor?
Aye.
Opposed, so moved. Ordinance?
Yes, ordinance, Mr. President.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded to refer to the Ordinance Committee. Any discussion?
Again, I've, carbon copied a few counselors. This was just a constituent request. Came home, wasn't aware that the bus stop was going to be placed in front of their property. Was a little irate. So we're going to have this conversation based off of constituent request.
Okay. And at some point, we'll have to notify PVTA too as well. But when we get to that point. Yep. Councilor LeBron Martinez.
Yeah, I actually got that same call, which I then I've referred to Roman. But my question is, isn't there supposed to be orders filed in order for these bus stops to be changed?
Yes.
Correct. They're supposed to be set by ordinance.
Because that particular one, it just happened. Not that I remember ever having an order filed on that one. I just want to let you know that.
That's good to know.
Just so you know that. Thank you.
So that'll have to be researched to see if the PVTA just put one up without the benefit of an ordinance, because that's supposed to be a two-way street. They've asked that we not remove them or approve them without their okay, but conversely, they're not supposed to be removing them or installing them without our okay. So there's sort of, it's a two-way deal on that. So that's a good point. That'll have to be researched to see if this is even an ordinance at this point. Counselor Lisi.
Are you saying that the stop in front of 60, 62, 64 Hampshire just went up recently?
Through you, Mr. President, yes, we received both City Hall, myself, several, the constituents and residents in front. Literally, she said she came home and there was a bus stop up and she was unaware. And this goes in hand with my next order, that they would like there to be resident-only parking, but she said that she was unaware of this bus stop.
And if I could just speak to that, because I did file an order that said that there be a stop created at the end of Hampshire and Maple, because it was a long way between Hampshire and the two nearest bus stops on Maple Street. So it may have actually been passed by the city council and then the PVTA put it up. So I mean, I did file the order. I don't remember the status of it exactly, but I did file the order.
I think we adopted something recently on that.
I do think so.
Wasn't that just like a month ago?
Yeah.
Maybe that's what happened.
And that's why, Mr. President, this just moves the bus stop down. There's literally an empty lot, one space over, so it'll just move it.
Yep.
Okay, well, we'll have to change the ordinance and discuss that with them and the whole nine. Okay. So now we have solved the mystery. This is what happened. Okay, so on item 27, Councilor Roman also files another order that says, seeking to put resident-only parking signs be placed in front of 60, 62, 64 Hampshire Street totaling 4 spaces, and your recommendation is send this to ordinance? Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's made, seconded to send to ordinance. Counselor Lisi.
Thank you. I'm fine. So it's already passed, right? I had a question about 26.
It sounds to me, I think that's the one, because I remember you had put that through, and I'm quite certain the council passed it, because it was about moving it, and I thought it was on Maple Street section as opposed to Hampshire, but maybe I'm wrong.
It was to put it on at Hampshire and Maple.
Okay.
But anyhow, regarding number 26, did we copy the engineer, because the engineer is going to be the one that needs to create the measurements for the bus stop?
Sure. We can send a copy to ordinance and the city engineer.
Yeah, that'd
Sure.
be great.
That's a good idea. Anybody else? Any other thoughts on this? Okay. Motion on the floor is to send to the ordinance committee with a copy to the city engineer. Without any further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Item 28. Item 28 is introduced by Councilor Roman that a handicap sign be placed in front of 136 Sergeant Street for Yvonne Mora.
Ordinance.
Ordinance, okay?
And copy of
This is a
Disabilities
copy to
Commission.
Disabilities Commission. Any discussion?
Mr. President,
Councilor Tallman?
if I could kindly ask to be put on that. I actually had that, and I gave it to the counselor, a while ago, and he took care of it very, very quickly. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Counselor, for giving it to me.
He delivers.
You always deliver. Thank you.
Is there a stamp on it, Peter?
All in favor of referring to ordinance with a copy to Disabilities Commission? Aye. Opposed, so moved. Item number 29 is an order introduced by Councilors Roman and Jordan that the City of Holyoke invite the mayor, school department, law department, and any other departments necessary to appear before the joint committee of the City Council and School Committee. The purpose would be to discuss the permanent home of the school department headquarters. Furthermore, on the feasibility of 57 Suffolk Street being acquired to permanently house the school department, including the use of eminent domain in order to save the taxpayers of the City of Holyoke money. So I would request joint committee.
Yes, Mr. President.
So recommendation on the floor is to receive this and refer to the joint committee on the City Council and School Committee. Any discussion? And save it for then. All in favor? Oh, Councilor McGivern.
Just a friendly reminder that all joint committee meetings, all city councilors, all school committee members should be notified of.
Absolutely.
This one coming Thursday is the first time since we had a joint committee that I've ever been notified of the actual meeting. And I think it's important that, and especially on an item like this, as this goes beyond the get-together with the two committees.
Absolutely.
This is very important.
And we would remind the two administrative assistants that that should be the case, and we're glad that that happened here. Councilor Roman.
Yes, and just again, thank you, Councilor McGivern, and Liz and Ryan have been great in that. And so anything that we, as a city council, are sending to those joint committees, Liz right away through Ryan is receiving them and notifying all the school committee members as well.
Excellent.
I love Liz and Ryan, but they haven't been good about it. Before you. Nothing to do with the chairman, Mr. President. I talked to Liz, I've talked to Ryan about this. We have not gotten notifications of this meeting. It's not the chairperson's fault. It's just procedure.
Anybody else with thoughts on this? Okay, all in favor of sending to the joint committee?
Aye.
So moved. Thank you. Item number 30 is introduced by Councilor Roman that Elena Centrone, the newly hired Family, Student, and Community Engagement Director, appear before the Joint Committee on the City Council and School Committee to outline her vision for engagement and answer any questions regarding said plan. Motion to send to the Joint Committee? Motion's been made and seconded to receive, to refer over to the Joint Committee on City Council and School Committee. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. 31 we already took care of. 32 is introduced by Councilor Bartley. The mayor's office kindly provide the ordinance committee with copies of contracts currently in force with the Holyoke's towing vendors.
Receive, adopt, or send to the mayor's office, copy to the law department
Second.
And ordinance?
and ordinance.
Yep. Motion's been made and seconded to receive, adopt, refer to the mayor, law department with a copy to the ordinance committee. And Councilor Bresnahan.
Do we want a time frame?
Yeah, Danny, thanks for asking that question. Yeah, so my understanding from the chair of ordinance is we're going to take this up next Tuesday, the 23rd. So we're hopeful this week.
Okay, within 7 days.
Well, how about this week? I mean, just sending it through a PDF. I mean, I wouldn't think it'd be too hard, so we could have time
Within
to sort
3
of
days.
digest it. Thank you, Mr. President. Thanks, Danny.
All right. I don't know if it was anticipation of this order or not, but I can tell you that the two towing vendors happened to send me copies of the contract. So I, as a member of ordinance, I'd be happy to cheerfully refer those contracts.
Called efficiency in government right there.
Perhaps,
Thank you.
but they just coincidentally
Transparency,
happened to be, both of them referred me copies of their respective contracts.
Could you send a copy to all counselors?
I'd be happy to.
Thank you.
Sure, no, not a problem. Yep. So, while we'll leave this officially to the mayor's office on the aside, I will also do my civic duty to give you copies of what has been given to me. All in favor receiving, adopting, referring to the mayor with a copy to the law department as well as a copy to the ordinance committee. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Thank you. Item number 33 Does the city council invite the acting regional director of the Mass DOT to a future meeting of the DGNR committee?
We're just receive and adopt, refer to DGR.
Okay, receive and refer to DGNR. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Referred. Item number 34 from Counselor Bartley. DPW and Mass DOT determine how to replace and upgrade the lights at Homestead Ave, Jarvis Ave, and Cherry Street intersection. This would include walk signs, there are none there currently, moving a light pole away from the curb on Homestead, and as well as adding a guardrail.
So I'd like to make a motion to receive this, refer it to the DPW and the engineer.
Second.
And make a copy to the DGR committee, please.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to receive and adopt, to refer to DOT as well as the DPW with a copy to the DGNR committee. I think I got it all in there, yep. Okay, any discussion? Counselor Lisi?
No, if Councilor Bartley wants to continue speaking on this order.
Okay, Counselor Bartley.
Yeah, so it's just the intersection that's, I guess, which, I don't know, it's when you're leaving the Soldiers' Home, it's to the left, and when you're leaving, you leave the Soldiers' Home, take a left, it's heading up that way.
Back access to the college?
Before you get to Bowdoin
Into
Village.
Homestead.
No, that's that main intersection before you get to Bowdoin Village. It's just.
Cherry Street?
The end of
Yeah.
Homestead.
Right off of the exit.
It's a total cluster bomb, because the
Cluster what?
cluster bomb. This is Lenten season, Counselor. So it's a total cluster bomb. The guys are up there from the alarm division working up there all the time. And there's kids walking to school from Bowdoin and from your Ward 6, and there's no crosswalk. There's crosswalk, but there's no signals.
Yep.
So
Yeah,
it's
dangerous.
and never mind what's happening with the flashing light. There was a 3-car accident last ordinance committee meeting right at Cabot Street. So I think you had the greatest idea going, Mr. President, when you said that we got a crumbling city here, and we got to start talking about bonding for some of these.
Sure.
Some of these, we're not getting any direction from Room 1, so we'll take the direction here. Yep. Let's be fair about this. I mean, Room 1 is supposed to be telling us a little bit more, if I may, about what the plan is. Where's the plan for the flashing lights that could ping all over? Accidents happen. People getting run over down by Capri Pizza. I mean, we had an order on this. I filed a month ago about people on New Year's Day. That's happening. But where do we get leadership? Well, at least we got it from you, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
I'd like to be added as a co-sponsor to this order. I'll save my thoughts, but I do have some other opinions. Counselor Lisi.
Thank you. I'd also like to be added to the order, and I'm just interested in learning if Mass DOT does have plans to upgrade that area, because I see they continue to put up signage related to the work that they did in that area and the repairs and changes that they made to the road. So I'd be interested to see if it is in the works. But either way, I'm happy to put my name on it and to make sure that there are those upgrades made as far down as the Jarvis, Homestead, Cherry Street intersection.
Okay, without objection, adding Counselor Lisi's name as well. Now I know what you were doing out there at that intersection, sleeves rolled up. I saw you. I drove by the other day before this order. So now all the pieces are coming together. Then this order. So
pieces are falling apart.
Well, you were right there. It was about 6 different workers, and there was Dave Bartley right in the middle of them all, sorting it out.
We were having donuts. Let's be real.
All in favor of receiving, adopting, and referring to the DPW and Mass DOT with a copy back to DGNR? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Item 35, introduced by Counselor Graney, ordered that all regular meetings of the Hoyoke City Council start at 7 p.m. sharp. The meetings shall be chaired by the council president or a senior member of the council present. City councilors shall be limited to speak a maximum of 2 times on each individual agenda item unless further debate is deemed appropriate by the body. Councilors shall be allowed to speak for up to 2 minutes on their first commentary period on each individual item. Each councilor shall be allotted a maximum of 1 minute to redress the same item for their secondary commentary period. Rationale: to ameliorate the Hoyoke City Council meetings so that all citizens can observe the council meetings within reasonable time constraints.
Ordinance?
Charter
Charter
and rules.
rules.
Charter and rules?
Yep. Motion's been
Second.
made and seconded to receive and refer to charters and rules. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. 36. Item number 36, introduced by Counselor Graney, that late file orders of the Hoyoke City Council shall be limited to 10 items. If a late file order is deemed an emergency, it may replace any order on the late file docket that is not an emergency in nature. The item replaced shall be placed on the next full council agenda of the City Council. Charter and rules.
Charter and rules?
Motion's been made and seconded to send to Charter and Rules. Any discussion? Counselor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Charters and Rules Committee will be happy to meet on these orders. The Charters and Rules Chairman is currently waiting for the folder from the past year. As we all know, Charters and Rules has not met in over a year, to be able to review it and to be able to get a good agenda together for everybody that's interested. And as soon as that folder is, which is not in this building, can be located, I will be happy to do that.
Counselor Lisi.
Thank you. Given that the former chair is no longer a part of this body, and it seems that we've been trying to get that folder, could we charge the administrative assistant with generating a new folder? It seems that they're on record somewhere, so we might as well just generate the folder.
Yeah, obviously you probably have to go back and, from the Excel file that you have of the tracking, order tracking, to put that together. So if you could do that for us, we'd appreciate it. Yeah. Was we're gonna have to generate absolutely a new jacket. This has been going on for a while. Joe's been chasing that, so. You've even been offered, beverages to come over to certain people's homes to find this folder.
With all due respect, I've been in decent contact with the said individual, whose name will go, our good friend will go unmentioned by me. And I believe it was just an inadvertent, not mistake, but just a person who liked to work out of home a lot on the committee folder. That way he didn't have to listen to any rules about speaking for 2 minutes, Counselor Graney, or doing things at his own pace, which was much longer than the rest of us. But I am working on it, and that was just more of a lighthearted way of announcing that as soon as we get the folder, we're gonna have a committee meeting set up.
Should be a dandy with all that and with all those items. Okay, so, all in favor of sending 36 over to, Charter and Rules?
Aye.
Opposed, so moved. 37, we already took care of. 38. 38's introduced by Counselor Jordan, that the DPW provide the city council with a current list of private ways. I would request that, this be received and adopted with if they could send a copy back to the council, that would be greatly appreciated. Counselor Lisi.
Thank you. I just want to also say that there was an order that Councilor Bartley filed that requested the same information coming to Ordinance Committee. So
Maybe we
they
could
should
send it
be
to
generating that list as well and have it handy.
Joy. Okay, so once we get this back, if they could send that to the council and specifically the Ordinance Committee, that would be really appreciated. All in favor of receiving and adopting, referring to the DPW?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Unless there was any other discussion, I didn't see any hands up.
It is what it is.
Thank you. Item number 39, introduced by Counselor Jordan, that the city council consider acceptance of all private ways in the city of Hoyoke as public ways. Ordinance, I believe. Would this require ordinance or public safety?
It would be ordinance.
Okay.
And I believe there are similar orders asking the same, or maybe the conversation was started under Josie's order for,
Yeah, because we had that
Owen's
once
place.
before,
and that got pushed back to committee anyhow,
but
so.
we'll have to find out, like, what are all these? I'm told there's as many as 40-something of them. There could be more, but we'll find out, and we can weed through the list. Counselor Bacon?
If I may, the orders were referred to public safety in the past, and we did have discussion in committee, and there was a number of details brought up about what roads were eligible to be roads, et cetera. So there is information that has been brought into committee,
Yep.
and there were just different definitions of,
Yeah, and I want to,
of more complex matter than it had appeared at first, but that's where it began.
and I know there's a public hearing, I believe, requirement before the acceptance or discontinuance of any street. The other piece is, again, I just want to emphasize the word consider here. This is not by any means saying we should do it, but just that We've talked about this. This might be something for a good long-term project that we've talked about for quite a number of years
Right.
to finally get done one way or the other. But
And I only bring it up because I think
So
it
you'd prefer
is
public
tabled.
safety?
I believe, I'd have to review the jacket with the new chair, but I believe it may be tabled in public safety.
okay, you think there's something in there on this?
I'm sorry, what was,
On public ways and private ways, is there anything in there?
from that Jimmy Leahy filed, doing,
That we had taken up.
Liberty, yeah.
And I believe in the context of that, they brought in a list.
All right.
Yeah, well, if I
You can
could,
always
she's
refer-
Through the
correct.
chair.
This is going to committee.
Right, it's just,
But just a point of interest for your next order, some residents don't want their streets to be accepted, which is interesting to me.
Right.
Like over near Dean Technical, but we can talk about this in committee.
Well, yeah, and I think that's all gonna come out. Some people may say no, and we may say, the city may say this is just not in our best interest, but
Right.
maybe we should, I mean, I don't think, I myself have never seen a complete list of who's got
haven't
private
either.
ways, public ways. And to even get to the point of having a conversation, whether this is good or bad, so I don't know. Councilor McGivern?
I, just procedural, I think the DPW plays a role. They might
Do.
even be.
They
the-
do.
Oh, a huge
the
role,
public
yes,
hearing.
We need to have they have to give us a report. There's a whole process on this.
Mr. President?
Councilor
Yeah,
Valentine.
we had a really long discussion about this regarding Owens Place, and it was an ordinance. And yes, it was an ordinance. I came to the meeting. I remember clearly. And Bill was here. And at that point, I think we had asked about a list of, how many are we looking at, because that was part of the big question. But just to say, my discussion about Owens Place, which was a really long one, was definitely an ordinance, and there were many, many questions that were left.
Okay. I mean, I know I happen to be the sponsor, but I don't have a strong opinion on what committee it goes to at all, but whatever the consensus is. Councilor Tallman?
Yeah, if I could just be asked to put on this, and
Sure. I think
Mr.
Councilor
President,
Tallman-
I got a call from somebody. I actually talked to a fellow worker that, a phone call. You know him, Jimmy, right? One of your neighbors on Dartmouth Street. About Liberty Street, he got a certified letter, and he didn't know whether to sign off on it or not. I guess that's procedure that the Elliott Butters, and he's on Dartmouth, but he's abuts Liberty Street to make that a public way. And it's just to cover the city, basically, but he was all worried about signing it. I said, I think you should sign it. It's nothing really major to do. But it's mostly for people that, it's in our ordinances that there's a new street, like, say, Michelle Lane, if their
Right.
city is taking land
That's
or
right.
something, to cover them. But, that's something that I think there's going to come up with people,
We should resolve it once and for all.
once and for all, get it out there, yeah.
At least have a conversation. Councilor Sullivan?
Yeah, I mean, given all this different parties that are interested, do you think it might be good to just amend the wording to say instead of all private ways to certain or select private ways?
Consider the acceptance of some. Change the word all to some. Okay. If that's fine. All in favor of the amendment of changing the word all to some?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Motion to adjourn?
We're not done with this yet,
What
so
committee
that's out of
did it go
order.
to?
I'm just gonna go by show of hands at this point. Last motion on the floor was to send it to ordinance. So show of hands to send to ordinance.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Put it on the list.
Yeah.
12 votes, so 39 to ordinance as amended. That is the last
Motion to
I
adjourn.
mentioned. Okay, motion to
Mr. President,
adjourn.
we
Yes.
have the city clerk write this. This must be a record. I've never been out this early before.
8:37.
And Eileen doesn't want me home this early, I can tell you that.
The record is 7.5 minutes.
What if we voted down the motion to adjourn and just enjoy each other's company? All right. All in favor of the motion to adjourn? Opposed? It passes 8-7.